In my last video, I featured this buffet that I picked up at a local thrift store. I didn't realize it right away, but someone pointed out that the matching Duncan Phyfe dining room table and 6 chairs were at the same store. While I have done the table, today I'll be focusing on the 6 chairs. They are filthy, have failing veneer, and need some reconstruction. There's a lot to do, so let's get started. It's time to start working on these chairs. After going through Facebook Marketplace, I'm seeing pristine dining room tables and chairs just like this one that can't sell. Some of them have been marked down from 200 to 100. So I'm gonna switch ideas. I'm gonna go ahead and take the seat off, reupholstering them with new fabric, which I've already purchased. The chairs themselves will get a good cleaning and repair, and then I'm gonna paint them. I'm using Fusion's TSP Alternative. I just mixed up a little bit in an old spray bottle. You simply spray and wipe and you don't have to rinse, and it's great. That's furniture wax. I went this way and that's what accumulated. It's so important you get that off of your pieces before you paint, even before you sand. Now the fabric was disgusting, and so I sprayed it really well with a disinfectant. I also sprayed it with a shellac so that those stains wouldn't bleed through the new fabric. Now let's figure out what's going on with the arm of this chair, and I did notice while cleaning them, a second chair needs some repair to the veneer. Oh, that's loose. This is the screw that I just tightened, but I'm noticing now it just spins in the cavity. So I took the screw out, added some wood glue, and then I broke about 4 pieces off of a toothpick and put them inside that hole. Ultimately, I was making that cavity smaller so that when I reinserted the screw, it would be a tight fit. Okay, that's snug. All right, does that make a difference? All right, awesome, that worked. Here, I have the piece of veneer to replace that, but look, that's lifting, and even this is lifting. I need to address that lifting. You want that glue to squirt out, because that way you know you have ample amount, and I'm going to wipe off the extra glue and then I'm going to clamp it. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Now when this one goes back into place, it's missing all of that. I'll have to fill that in with something. So. There you go. It's time to go ahead and start scuff sanding these chairs. Now you've seen me use my Surfprep sanding system before, and it's a pretty fancy sander and very expensive. You don't need something like that to refinish or paint your furniture. And I'm going to show you how with a handheld tool, it's very simple. For a chair that has all these different curves and details, I would suggest you get a sponge, a sanding sponge. The sanding, as you've heard me say before, creates some teeth or some scratches for your primer and your paint to better adhere to. I've noticed that on some of the chairs, this little seam here, for lack of a better word, is starting to split. So what I've been doing is using some plastic wood, pushing it down into the seam. When it dries, I'll sand it smooth and it'll just look much better. I took the clamps and the tape off, checked it out, and it looked pretty good. So I took a sand pad and lightly sanded away some of the exposed glue. This is a big chunk that's missing, so I'm going to fill it in with some Bondo, which is a 2-part epoxy. You've seen me use this a lot. It dries quickly. I mix up a small batch at a time. This is the gel hardener. You mix it together until it's all one uniform color, and then it's ready to be applied. Now, because my camera wasn't pointed in the right direction, let me just fast forward to when I started sanding all those repairs. It's the following day, and I just came back from Lowe's. I picked up a second can of the Zinsser Shellac. I sprayed just the areas that I had treated or with Bondo or wood filler and where I had sanded down to raw wood. And I decided, instead of priming these with a white primer and then painting it a black color, I just decided I'm just going to give the chairs, the entire chair, a good spray of shellac that will block in the tannins. I know this is going to be a bleeder, and create a nice, even, smooth surface for the paint to be applied to. The chairs now have 2 coats of shellac on them, in some places 3 coats. They're thoroughly dried. I'm going to use a very, very fine, this is probably a 600 grit sand pad, all over the chairs, just to lightly sand them, make sure nothing landed in the shellac while it was drying. I'll dust it off with the tack cloth, and then I'll be ready to apply that first coat of paint. And now that all that prep work is done, it is finally time to paint. I'm using Caviar again, my favorite Sherwin-Williams color, in Valspar's cabinet and furniture paint. I'm filtering it into my vessel for my sprayer. I'm going to thin it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to head outside to spray. I tested the spray pattern on that piece of cardboard first to make sure I had the right amount of paint coming out. Now, can you paint chairs like this with a paintbrush? Absolutely. Would I personally do it? No, it would take too long. That's one reason why I love to spray. I have an Earlex 5500, and I am in awe of the finish it creates and how quickly it allows me to finish. I started with the chairs upside down, and as you can see, I'm putting a very light coat on. I anticipate 2, if not 3 coats being necessary. When I finish with the chairs upside down, I'll turn them over and paint the tops at that point. Several hours later, I put a second coat of paint with the chairs upside down. The following morning, I turned them right side up and sprayed 2 coats on the top. I did not spray a coat of poly. Valspar's cabinet and furniture paint does have a built-in top coat. I've always sprayed a top coat anyway, but I decided to see what happened if I didn't spray a poly. And in the end, it actually turned out fine, but that was a risk I took. When I was at Joann's to purchase something else, I discovered that fabric was on sale. So I took that opportunity to buy some to recover the cushions. I've been putting this off because if you're familiar with my channel, reupholstering and stapling is not my jam. But I did buy a new stapler. It has been charged and it has more power certainly than the handheld ones. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to put in 3 on this side first, just to get it started. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is be aware of where the screw holes are that reattach this to the chair, okay? Now I'm going to stretch this one up. All right, then I'm going to turn it sideways, and we're going to start here, okay? All right, so you just keep. All right, now before I do much more, I'm going to go ahead and trim the extra fabric off. All right, let's start pulling it. See how it's starting to get a point there? That's what I'm trying to avoid. So there, you see how it's smoothed out? I don't know if you can against this carpet. And then pull that. See, if I were to do this, it creates that point there. So I'm just slightly pulling it in a different direction to soften that up. Okay. I think that looks pretty nice. So. All right, let me trim it and I'll see what it looks like on the other side. All right, you ready? Ta-da! Pretty, isn't it? All that was left to do was to re-screw the seats into the chairs themselves. Now in this case, I wanted to paint these because of the damage and to make them more marketable in my area, but leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. Until next time.